In the next couple of days I'm going to be painting some walls in my lounge here, and I've got a bit of an issue because I've got this rather large crack. The plaster's coming away, it's cracked down the outside or the corner here of the architrave, and I'm definitely not going to be painting straight over the top of that. So I need to sort that out right now. Hey, what's up guys, it's your man JB, and I've already explained to you what the issue is here. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. So really what you need to be thinking about doing here is exposing this more, making it worse, so to speak. And I haven't touched it for a while because I know it's been needing to be done. I don't want to start pulling away all this sort of flaking plaster and what have you, but it is now time to sort this out because I'm actually really looking forward to getting this wall and this wall over here painted over the weekend. Now if you want to check that out, then do stay tuned on my channel because it will be coming up really soon. Thanks to Dulux Heritage Range. Oh yes, I'm going bold, so check it out. But let's get this sorted in preparation for painting. As I've said already, I'm really not sure of the extent of damage here, but I do know that it's done from door slam, and that certainly hasn't been done in my household, I can tell you, but perhaps previously it was done. But it is quite a common issue, and you can actually see that this crack opens up when you try and move this architrave. So yeah, that's cracked all the way down there. So this part here really isn't an issue because I'm just going to caulk this. But here's the issue, because the plaster really has cracked, and so what we'll do, we just need to take that off, and straight away I can see that I'm actually feeling quite lucky and quite pleased, because this has only damaged the skim plaster, the plaster that's been put on top of the plasterboard here. It's very thin, and it's actually quite easily fixable. So I just really take away as much of this as possible. What you want to make sure is that you're not leaving any bits of plaster here that's still likely to come away. So just sort of sticking the scraper in here, I can just take off perhaps a little bit more around the edge just to make sure that there's no loose stuff, and that's actually quite good. I'm going to leave it quite jagged as well, because leaving that edge quite jagged means that the repair will be a little bit stronger when I put the plaster skin back over the top. So I'm happy with that bit. I might just scratch this up a little bit. Again, that will just give the plaster a little something to stick to. Okay, then what I'm going to need to do is to just get rid of this old caulk in the corner here. There we go, so that will need redoing. So we'll just do that all the way down. Now this is a kind of similar job to a video I posted a little while ago between the wall and stairs, or the stair stringer, whatever you want to call it. But this is a much smaller area, so it's going to be easier to fix and it's going to be quicker, that's for sure. So I'll take the caulking out here, and I'm just going to take it out. Well, looking at it, I'm going to have to take it out to about here because it's cracked. Now, I wouldn't necessarily use a sharp knife when doing this kind of repair, because you're quite likely to run the knife into the architrave, and that leaves a bit of a mess. So I've got a couple of scrapers that have a rather sharp edge to them, and actually running that along this side of the architrave and just bringing it down like so cuts it enough. So once you know you've come through here, and then you just go up the other side, so it just drops off. just like the rest of this lot did right here. So there you go, that top bit wasn't too bad at all. I'm just going to check the other side, and actually the other side looks good. Actually, whoever painted that before didn't do a great job, so good job I'm sorting that out. I don't want to go up here because I don't need to do it, but there is just this little bit more to do here. So just dig that knife in. There we go, and then just come up, and that just takes that away. Now, one of the issues you might have here, let's zoom you in a little bit. When you're taking off old caulking, this bit here actually looks alright, but because I've taken this bit off, as I pull this away, it pulls it all up where it really doesn't need to come away. So you've got two options. You can either just rip the whole lot off, or try and cut it in a way that will allow you to caulk up to the old caulking and blend it in. So I've made quite a nice cut there, and that'll actually be perfect because when I put some caulk in there and run my finger or thumb along it, that'll blend straight into that and you won't notice it. Now I will give that a rub down. I'm going to give that a quick rub down with a bit of 80 grit paper because I am painting this architrave as well. So let's just do that now, and then before I caulk it I need to address the bit of plaster repair. So I'm happy that I've got all the caulk off and the plaster has been taken back far enough where it's not flaky anymore. So although I'm going to be painting all the skirting here and all the architrave, for now I'm just going to rub down this bit just in preparation to put some caulk in there. Because once the caulk's in, I don't really want to start rubbing down again because it might lose its smoothness, so to speak. So rub down, caulk, then we can paint, but that's going to be on another video as I've said already. So yeah, I'm just going to rub down this inside edge of the architrave here and just using a piece of 180 grit paper. So it's just on the inside here, and the key to sanding, if you excuse the pun, the key to sanding is make sure you get rid of the sheen, get rid of the shine, because that's not going to allow the new paint to adhere to it. So any rubbing down on old paintwork, just make sure it feels a bit rough and you've got rid of that shine. And what I'm also going to do is just rub down a little bit on the face of the wall here where the caulk came away and the paint was kind of underneath it, and it pulled a little bit of the paint away, made it a bit rough. So doesn't take much at all, just one edge like that down the wall, and that's sorted. So to give you an idea of the colour that this wall and this architrave is going to be, I have got some grey, some dark grey. I think it's dark grey, but it's definitely a grey undercoat. So yeah, we're not going anything light. I just feel for winter it'd be really nice to have a darker, warmer colour. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check that video out because it's coming real soon. Yeah, that's feeling quite rough now. And that's always the thing, you know, look at it and feel it. Don't just feel it without looking at it, and don't just look at it without feeling it. Look and feel, look and feel. And just go down that wall edge, just to take away any rough areas there. So I've got an area here. I've got this large area that really was that large cracked area that was the biggest issue, and I've got a couple of bits here, and then there's also the bit up the top there. That's only a small bit. It's a much smaller version of this. So in order to repair this, I need to do some plaster repair for this, and I need to caulk it. But I definitely need to do the plaster repair first. So we rub it down, we do the plaster repair, and then we can caulk it. Now this is only very thin, it's not going to take a lot of filler at all, and it does dry really quickly. So by the end of today, I will have that filled and caulked. The product I'm going to be using for the plaster repair is this Bartolene ready mixed plaster skim and repair. Now this is absolutely ideal for repairs that are no deeper than about 3mm. So if you've got something like this where you've got a very thin section of plaster that's come away, or you've got some real kind of big chips of paint in the wall, and any other imperfections like holes, small holes, pinholes, that kind of thing, then this stuff is absolutely fantastic, and it dries really quick, really smooth finish, and because it's so smooth you can get it really flat and it doesn't need a lot of sanding. But even if you do need to sand it, it's really quick. So next thing is we want to get some on these 4 areas. Now if I was doing a much larger area, let's say the area was about the size of this, I am more likely to PVA it and seal it, just so I'm really confident that the product is going to stick to the wall. But because this is such a small area, there's no issue. I've never had any issues with this before, whether it's a small area or large area. But because this is so small, I'm not going to seal it, I'm not going to PVA it. So what I will do is give it a wipe down with a damp cloth, and yeah, just get it a little bit wet. Because what you don't want is dust in your cracks. Yeah, you don't want dust in your cracks here, because what will happen is if you then put your filler or your plaster in there, it won't stick to the wall, it will just stick to the dust, and then it will just fall away. So there we go. They're a little bit damp now as well, and because that's down to the paper, that will hold a little bit of moisture for a while, which is actually quite good. So I'll do the top bit in a minute, and I'll just wipe that anyway. I'm not going to be putting any plaster repair in here, but while I'm just getting rid of the dust, I'll just run down there. There we go. Okay, great. So what you're going to need for this is a very smooth filling knife. Now for this sort of job it doesn't need to be that wide, but if I'm doing any kind of plaster skim or repair, I use my Axis Decor taping knife, and this is a 6-inch knife. It's quite bendy, as you can see there, and it's quite shiny, stainless steel, very thin, and gives a really, really good finish. Now I only use this with filling. I've got multiple filling knives and scrapers and what have you in my box. I could go on, but I'll stop there, you get the idea. But this is the only one that I don't even rub sandpaper on this to get rid of any filler. I make sure that this is always white, always shiny, always ready to go. So we'll open this up, and this is quite a new one, this, so there's plenty in there. I think that's going to be enough. But it sticks really well. Look, you can see I've just taken a load out with that. It really is quite sticky, but at the same time it is really, really smooth. So it's this is perfect for this. So all I'm going to do, I'll just start with these bits. Generally what I do tend to do is use 2 scrapers, and this is one of my oldest scrapers. This one belonged to my dad. Yeah, this is years old, and I'll tell you what, that is sharper than a Stanley blade. Well, maybe not quite, but it is really sharp. So this is one of my favourite scraping knives as well. So what I tend to do is I'll tend to just wipe it on with that one, and then using this just go over it like so. And you know what, even though there's a little bit of a dink there, that is all you need to do really. In fact, I could get away with just using that one, but There we go. That's it. A little bit of excess around here, but that will come off really, really easy. So we just do the same with this small bit down here. Actually, I'll just get away with doing that with this one, because this one you can see has got very rounded edges. If I'm going to be doing something in the corner here, it's not going to be as easy, whereas if I've got this, that'll be perfect right in there. So what I'll do to start with here, I'll just use my small spreader to put some plaster repair in there. And it's nice using two as well, because you can keep wiping the filler and get it to whatever kind of size and shape you want. What I can then do is use a nice edge like this, put it against the architrave, nice and gently run that down. There we go, perfect, in one swoop. Now you really don't notice this bit at all, but I'm going to sort it out all the same. So just wipe it down, get rid of any dust, and then we'll just put a bit on the top there, and then use a good edge on this knife. Boom, got a little bit on the architrave there. I want to get that off, because if I start having to sand that. There we go. This is actually drying already. Because it's so thin, it dries really quick. So I won't have to wait long until I can rub that down, and then we'll apply some caulk. But what it's a really good idea to do before you caulk it is to actually undercoat it. Now obviously I've taken out the old caulk here, and there is a bit of a crack and it looks a bit ugly. So by doing this plaster skim and filling it, that gets that bit out of the way. We've still got this gap here. Now if I put some undercoat in there, some primer in there, it will fill any tiny little gaps, and it also makes it more obvious where you need to caulk it. So just to reinforce, we've done the plaster repair, the skim. I've rubbed it down, or I've rubbed it down initially, done the plaster repair. I shall then throw some primer undercoat in there, and then once that's dry I shall apply the caulk. Then once the caulk is dry, we can go over the top of that with a suitable wood or wall paint, depending on which surface the caulk is on. I'm going to give it a very light rub down. Now we only need a piece of 120 paper for this. As I said earlier, it sands down really, really easy. And already though it is really smooth. It is actually a rather smooth plaster repair. So all it needs is literally that, and that is super smooth already. So I'll just go over those few areas like so. This was a slightly bigger area, but even so, it's still really smooth. And there's no way you're going to notice that once it's painted. Okay, that's the sanding down done. So I'm just going to give it a quick wipe, give it a brush off, and a wipe with a damp rag. Now this is for the woodwork. The primer undercoat is for the woodwork, but it doesn't matter if I get just a little bit on the wall. I don't need to worry about cutting this in for two reasons. One, a bit of primer on the wall is not an issue whatsoever, but secondly, I want to get enough on there so it gets into those cracks like I mentioned earlier. Now if you're doing a lot of priming and painting and undercoat and what have you, it's definitely worth putting your paint in a kettle and not using it straight out of the tin. Now, all I'm going to do is just get that in there. Try not to spread it too thin. It's quite a runny product this, to be honest. I'm not worried about keeping it clean either, because it's all going to get painted. One of the great things about painting woodwork and walls in a dark colour, if there are any cracks in it, you're less likely to see it. When the walls are white and the woodwork is white, you really do see the cracks, but already just by putting that grey undercoat on, you can't even see the gap. I will be caulking it though, I'll still caulk it. Now that the primer undercoat is dry, we can go ahead and fill the crack or the area where we pulled out the caulk before. And as you can see, some of the areas aren't too bad along here, but you can certainly see some areas where you definitely do need to caulk it. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. It was only a little bit I needed to do there, because all of this is still really good, but it gets to this point just above the light switch where it all came out, so we need to put a little bit more in there. And there we go, so a little bit in the top there, that section was all good. This is where I blended it in, so that's all nice and smooth and joins up nicely, and then we've got a nice bit of caulk all the way down to the bottom there. Sorted. Well, that's it then, just got to wait for this caulk to dry and then I can do everything else that I need to do. So don't forget to check out that video real soon, and you will see the finished result. But I do hope this video has helped in fixing a similar problem that you might have around a door frame of yours. Fantastic guys, thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.